Welcome to SoldierStudyTime, your guide to review material needed for your Army career. My name is Carla, and today we will review the foreword, preface, acknowledgments, and introduction to Army Doctrine Publication 1, published on July 2019. This is the first of a series to cover the entire publication. During this series, I will be narrating the ADP for you. Because if you're like me and you are always on the go, but desire to be more informed, this is a good tool to listen on the go. On the video image, you can see the cover of Army Doctrine Publication 1. Published July 2019, the gist is that ADP1 informs us of the Army's mission, purpose, and role contributing to America's land power. Forward. Page 1 of ADP1 contains a foreword. ADP1 and ADP 3-0 operations are the two Army capstone doctrinal manuals that serve as the foundation of our professional body of knowledge. It explains our Army's historical significance in the formation and preservation of our nation and its role today and in the future as a member of the joint force to guarantee the nation's strength and independence. At the heart of this doctrine is the professional soldier, our true asymmetric advantage and most valued asset. Today's soldiers are the legacy of the millions of soldiers who came before them. They each freely volunteered to serve a higher purpose, an ideal greater than themselves. Soldiers continually demonstrate their character, commitment, and competence to protect our nation under demanding and complex conditions. The oath they freely take to the Constitution of the United States is our soldiers' sacred bond to maintain the confidence of the American people as trusted professionals in the world's premier land force. The Army's unique role as part of the joint force is to shape operational environments, prevent conflicts, conduct large-scale ground combat operations, and consolidate gains to achieve enduring national objectives. Only the Army is capable of mounting sustained large-scale ground combat operations. The total Army, comprised of the regular Army, Army National Guard, and Army Reserve, provides the nation with a land force unequaled in skill, adaptability, professionalism, and power. In today's volatile operational environment, our Army must remain ready to answer the nation's call anywhere and anytime, with little or no notice. Because of this, readiness for large-scale ground combat is our first priority. While we continue to develop future capabilities and care for families, we take best care of our soldiers when we maintain our solemn commitment to never send soldiers into harm's way unless they are fully trained, properly equipped, and most importantly, properly led. This is our moral imperative and what the American people trust us to do. The fundamental role of the American soldier today is the same as it was over 244 years ago. To win. That is the challenge of our Army. Must always be ready to meet, today and tomorrow. Signed, Mark A. Miley, General, United States Army Chief of Staff. Preface. Page 3. ADP1 is prepared under the direction of the Chief of Staff of the Army. It delineates the Army's roles and core competencies by deriving them from the Constitution. Title 10, United States Code, USC, and DODD 5100.01. It establishes the fundamental principles for employing Army forces, addresses the Army's contributions to the joint force, and highlights our interdependence with the joint force. Lastly, ADP1 emphasizes the professional soldier and the characteristics of the future force that will enable the Army to maintain its commitment to the nation. Army Doctrine supports and is consistent with Joint Doctrine. This publication connects Army Doctrine to Joint Doctrine as expressed in relevant joint publications, especially JP1, Doctrine for the Armed Forces of the United States, and JP3-0, Joint Operations. The principal audience for ADP1 is all members of the professional of arms, executive and legislative leaders, and unified action partners, commanders, staffs, and subordinates ensure that their decisions and actions comply with applicable laws and regulations. Commanders at all levels ensure that their soldiers operate in accordance with the law of war and the rules of engagement. CFM 27-10. ADP1 uses joint terms where applicable. For terms and their definitions in the text, the term is italicized and the numbers of proponent publication follows the definition. Bolded words show only emphasis, not formal terms. ADP1 applies to the regular Army, Army National Guard of the United States, the Army National Guard while in the service of the United States Army Reserve, and the Department of the Army Civilians unless otherwise stated. ADP1 Introduction starts on page 5. Page 5. Length power is the ability by threat, force, or occupation to gain, sustain, and exploit control over land, resources, and people. ADP 3-0. Our Army provides the United States with a campaign quality force able to secure, seize, and occupy terrain, sustain itself, and enable our unified action partners to interact with, secure, or control populations. When necessary, the Army conducts large-scale ground combat operations on land to achieve strategic objectives and impose our will on enemies. No other force has this capability. Our Army exists to defend the nation and protect our nation's interests. We answer the nation's call to serve whenever and wherever required as the preeminent land warfighting force in the world. We are capable of managing crises and conducting large-scale ground combat as part of the joint force. Our soldiers, leaders, and units possess the tactical and technical competence to conduct successful operations across the full range of military operations and the competition continuum. We maintain the trust of the American people who rely on the armed forces to protect and defend the Constitution and to guarantee their freedom, security, and interest as we have always done. To talk about our Army is to talk about its rich and dynamic history. On 14 June 1775, the Second Continental Congress established the Continental Army, instituting the United States Army as the first service of the armed forces of the United States. As one of the oldest American institutions, our Army predates the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. For almost 2.5 centuries, soldiers have built a legacy of character, competence, and commitment, symbolized by the 190th campaign streamers that adorn the Army flag, each one signifying the great sacrifices of soldiers on behalf of the nation and the American people. The Army today is a force that is prepared to defend the nation and protect our national interests through prompt and sustained land combat. This includes forcible entry from the land, sea, or air, closing with and destroying a determined enemy with fires and movement, sustaining the Army and joint forces, consolidating battlefield gains to facilitate a sustainable peace, and defending our homeland. The Army organizes, trains, and equips the force to conduct offensive, defensive, and stability operations when employed abroad and defense support of civil authorities, DSCA, tasks at home. The Army accomplishes its mission by supporting the joint force in 4 strategic roles: shaping operational environments, preventing conflict, prevailing in large-scale ground combat operations, and consolidating gains. The Army helps the joint force win when it achieves its operational objective in the performance of its roles across the range of military operations. The strategic roles clarify the enduring reasons for which our Army is organized, trained, and equipped. The Army provides its core competencies to joint force, which are essential and enduring capabilities that enable unified action. These competencies define the Army's fundamental contributions to the nation's defense. Page 6. Technological change, as well as both state and non-state actors that threaten global stability, continuously influence the Army. Our Army is a fundamental component of the joint forces that defeats enemies who challenge U.S. interests worldwide. Army forces provide combatant commanders the means to shape operational environments, deter potential adversaries, defeat enemies in all-length environments, and consolidate military gains on the ground to ensure sustainable outcomes. The soldiers of today are the legacy of a proud heritage of selfless and courageous Americans who fought at Lexington and conquered, held the line at Yorktown, charged up Missionary Ridge, and went over the top in the Argonne Forest. We are descended from those who held fast in the Ardennes, conducted amphibious assaults across the Pacific, and perfected air mobility in Southeast Asia. Many soldiers still serving brought peace and stability to the Balkans, while thousands more are in harm's way in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other dangerous places. The Guiding Foundation's logic chart shows how the Army continues this legacy of service. Soldiers with physical and moral courage, the ability to think critically and creatively, and the resilience to endure hardship provide the Army its collective strength. Soldiers are the strength of our army today and tomorrow, just as they have been since 1775. That was a foreword, preface, and introduction to the Army Doctrine Publication 1, published on July 2019. If you enjoy the content and would like to continue reviewing with me, please subscribe. You may play this video as often as you need. If you would like other specific content, please let me know in your comments and I will be happy to bring it to you. Look for my next videos on ADP1 to complete the series. Thank you, and remember to continue to enhance your knowledge through Soldier Study Time, SST. Ciao.